Armory disc golfers, welcome back to another video. If you've been around the sport of disc golf very long, then you've probably heard of the analogy of using your arm like a whip to create high-speed exit velocities so that you can throw the disc far. You've also undoubtedly heard of the term of the power pocket, but my experience both as a player and as a coach has shown me that actually implementing these things into your form can be more difficult than it would seem, and it can be frustrating at times. But today, I'm going to show you how to properly whip the disc through. I'm going to show you how the pros do it, and if you follow this guide and this tip, then it's going to be difficult for you to not hit the power pocket. Every now and then, I feel like I find something that really changes my game. I hope it can really change yours too. Excited to show you. So like I've said, you've heard the analogy of using your arm as a whip, and because a whip is loose, therefore you want your arm to stay nice and loose so you can whip the disc down the fairway. The problem with that is that if you do keep just a really loose arm, then you can get yourself into a position into like this pro grade reach back, you know, like staggered stance, disc nice out and far away from your body, you're coiled, you're ready to go into a really firm front brace, rotating, grip is good, all of that stuff can be going great. But if you have just a loose arm, then you've probably experienced this frustration. I know that I have for years, where you can be here, and as soon as you start getting energy going from the ground up, you immediately pinch off this angle, and then you're never going to catch back up and actually get into a power pocket here, and your throw looks like this. You round a lot, it's a C-shaped throw instead of a more linear throw. It's not effective, it's not accurate, it's definitely not powerful. But the alternative isn't to just tighten everything up and to try to muscle the disc down the fairway. That's not effective either. You definitely want the law of conservation of momentum on your side so you can get that exponential acceleration to project the disc down the fairway at high speeds, like I said. But what you want to do, similar to how the handle of a whip is nice and rigid, wood or metal or whatever it is on your particular favorite whip or whatever, that is a rigid piece of the whip. It's the tip of the whip and the rest of the whip that's being flung through that is loose. Similarly, the handle of your whip, if you will, should be your upper arm and chest. And you should stay more structured here and let your lower arm be loose. I'll show you what I mean. If you cross your arms like this and then untuck your right arm and just hold up your right arm with your left arm nice and loose and floppy. Rotate backwards and then rotate forwards, and you can see that your arm kind of whips through like that. Now let's take it into a disc golf throw. You can get this same motion here, reach back, and now let's just say we're going to extend out away from our body like you would in a disc golf throw. And now I'm just going to rotate forward into a mediocre brace. Nice and extended here. This is just loose, and I rotate forward. And what do you see? I'm getting pulled into the power pocket here. I'm nice and firm and rigid here, staying loose here, and then I'm getting, the disc rather, is getting whipped out down the fairway. Now obviously when you throw, you're not going to throw like this. I mean, there wouldn't be any real power behind that. But we can put this structure into a disc golf throw by following this cue that's really simple and might change your entire game if this is something you've been struggling with. Take the lead of a guy like Niklas Antila or Väinö Mäkelä, even guys like Gannon Buhr and Ricky Wysocki, and I think most pros do this, whether they do it as exaggerated or not. And keep your elbow up, out at this 90-ish degree angle, and outside of your torso for the entirety of your throw, even in your reach back. So as you're going here, I'm not going to let my elbow drift inside of my torso like this. I'm going to keep my elbow outside of my torso. And so if this is as far as I'm rotating backwards, this is about as far as I'm going to reach back. If I coil back here, I can allow my elbow to extend and the disc to get away from me, but I'm going to keep my elbow outside of my torso. As I begin to pull forward, I'm going to keep my elbow outside of my torso through the entirety of the throw, and I'm going to get into a power pocket here. Watch pros do this, and you will see that they have structure to this front part, the upper part of their arm, and their lower part of their arm is getting out, in, and out, but you're maintaining structure and rigidity here while allowing your lower arm to whip through. I'm going to show you some pro coverage, but I want to talk about one more thing first. Like I've said, you want to be loose and fluid. This is almost a static position with your upper arm, but it's an active motion from a static position, if that makes sense. If you keep your elbow up and outside of your torso and you get your reach back here, now it's full send from here. I am actively throwing the disc here. I'm just in a position where I can be set up to throw the disc. As I rotate, I can rotate as slowly as I want or as quickly as I want, and I'm still going to get to this position. Just like if I'm here and I rotate slowly or if I rotate quickly, I'm still getting to this position. So it's a little more static up here, but I am definitely still pushing my tricep forward, pulling through with my tricep while allowing the disc to get pulled in tight to my body. If you want to get extra spin on your disc and you're struggling with that, you can check out this video here and show you how to really snap the disc and get extra spin on it as well if you're still struggling with that. Like I said at the beginning of this video, it's going to be difficult for you to not get to a power pocket position if you keep your elbow up and outside of your torso throughout the throw. You'd have to do some pretty goofy stuff to not end up in this position. Now you can still rotate early, and there's still other parts of the disc golf form that you can certainly screw up. But as far as getting to this power pocket position, this will make your life so much easier. Let's check out some pro form and see if this is actually what they're doing. All right, back in the lab, checking out some pro form. Like I mentioned, Niklas is a great person to look at to emulate this sort of thing. He's actually the person that led me to discover this, essentially. And you can see he is very noticeably elbow very far out in front of his torso, and more so than like anyone else. I think Niklas really maintains this structure here all the way throughout his throw. Rigid up here and more loose from his elbow down. And you can see how as he rotates forward and maintains this structure, elbow way out in front of his torso, but his arm is getting pulled in, whipping into and then out of a power pocket. Some other guys that I mentioned, shout out to Overthrow for compiling videos like this of Simon and Drew and a couple other guys. Incredible resource. Go check that out. I really like this because it shows you the top-down view as well as the side and back view, so you can really see what I'm talking about. His elbow is outside of his torso. It's nice and out here. And the tricky thing is sometimes it looks like when you reach back, like it's hard to see if your elbow is like inside or outside of your torso, but given the back view and the overhead view, you can see that it is in line or outside of the torso. Now, it's important to note that there will be parts of the throw where it'll get pulled in a little bit, and some pros are a little more inside of the torso than others. But if you watch this structure throughout the throw as he's pulling through, this is a max distance Anheuser. You can see Simon is maintaining this structure here all the way through his throw while his lower arm is getting whipped through. And that's how they get to these deep power pocket positions like you can see here, because they're not having to get to it as much because they're never allowing that angle to get pinched in the first place. Looking at Calvin, these last two guys that we're going to look at, I think look like more arm throwers, and so I wanted to highlight him and the final guy that we're going to look at. Again, you can see his elbow outside of his torso. He does the pump thing, but he's keeping it out wide. And then, like I said, it can be difficult to see from this position if it's inside or outside, but I think you can kind of tell that his elbow is out away from his body here. And notice this structure is staying more rigid here the entire time. And now as he is coming through, he gets sucked in a little bit here, which, like I said, if you're looking at something full speed, frame by frame, you know, like that might happen. But then you will see very evidently that as he's getting to the power pocket, that elbow is outside of the torso, in line or outside of the torso, and he's maintaining that structure again throughout his throw. Another guy that I think looks more army, similar to Calvin, and who is probably the farthest throwing golf line player in the world right now, is AB. And so I wanted to take a look at him because
Personally, when I first started thinking about this and really noticing it and paying attention to it, I thought that AB did not do this. But you can see, again, he's already got his elbow out into this position here. And now as he goes through, it can look like he's getting pinched. And again, he might be getting a little bit pinched, but you can see he's maintaining this structure here all the way through, elbow outside of the torso into a deep power pocket. And I don't need to tell you how far Anthony Barela throws the disc. So use this, again, when you're starting out with a new form, start slow, because implementing new form can always be kind of tricky, but start slow, go at like 50% power, 70% power, and if you've never really hit the power pocket before, you're going to notice a difference in the snap and the ease at which you're getting distance that you used to have to work so hard for. As that continues to feel more and more normal, obviously you can speed things up more and more and do more full power throws. I hope this tip helps you out as much as it helps me not only get extra distance, more consistent distance, and more consistent release points, accuracy, and overall better scores. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like and subscribe. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.